Steve, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, need an answer to that.
I'm sorry, manager, what was your question?
It's my understanding that originally the application, the consolidated funding application for the Promenade had a match from the developer. It had to do with water and sewer, and we expressed concerns that that was something that was already approved. And I understand, I didn't actually read the article, it's second-hand information, that some advanced stormwater management practices are, and I just would like some clarification on that.
I can answer that.
Please.
Can you hear me? In the CFA application, it calls for a match to the state funding, and the city and town, in partnership with Hudson Landing Development, applied for a project total of $5.8 million. Part of that project involves, as manager was referring to, stormwater management, and one of the elements of the application was a feasibility study done for the Environmental Facilities Corporation to take a look at the best practices in terms of green systems to handle stormwater runoff. Things like pervious surfaces, things like rain gardens, using landscaping to control stormwater runoff. So that feasibility study was prepared for the Environmental Facilities Corporation, and that is part of the CFA application. The partners in the program, the town of Ulster, City of Kingston, and Hudson Landing, through the City of Kingston's application, applied for funding through the Department of State, Office of Parks, and Environmental Facilities Corporation. The matching for those funds include cash and possibly the donation of the value of the land that the Promenade would sit on, which is now owned by Hudson Landing Development LLC, and it has a value. Hudson River, a mile of Hudson River waterfront does have a value. Depending on what the final outcome is with the numbers, that'll depend on how that match is made. But it's really mostly the cash to build the road, access road. I would say that was the primary infrastructure that's going to be matched. And the other match would be, as I mentioned, the donation of the value of the Promenade property. Jeff.
Thanks. Either for Dan or for Steve. If I understand correctly, there'll be a parking lot at the southern end.
Yes.
So it would seem like North Street would be improved from Pompey and Delaware Avenue, so that people can come from Pompey and go on that area and drive right up to North Street and park there and then use that promenade. Is that correct?
Yeah. Currently, right now, the road stops right down around where St. Mary's is. So that would be opened up. That area would be cleaned up. The paving is in somewhat disrepair in that location, so that would be improved up into the project site to allow safe, adequate access. It would probably be a temporary pavement at this point, without understanding what kind of, development I don't even know if you call it the Sailor's Cove property anymore. The Hutton Brickyard property will undergo, and then ultimately how the final details of the Hudson Landing plan shape up. But there will be a paved access road all the way up to a parking area located in our site.
Thanks.
And that's all pervious pavement, right? Parking lot?
Well, that's one of the things that Steve kind of, one thing we went through with the environmental facilities grant is to look at the green infrastructure practices. So I think someone had mentioned that the funding round was increased at a certain portion. We looked at bringing those green infrastructure practices in for additional funding to implement those on the promenade itself. There's also different aspects that the promenade itself may go through in the approval process, whether certain areas, we may have just packed gravel, as an adequate base course to kind of, reduce stormwater impacts from that scenario. I actually visited a lot of the scenic Hudson parks in the last month with Steve Rosenberg, who kind of showed me the way scenic Hudson has handled them in a lot of their waterfront parks. One of the elements as we bring this to the town and the city in the fall is to kind of discuss these different details with the city and the town and see what's the best plan to kind of put forward once we know, what we have to play with and what we have to work with. So, and also understanding that this promenade, our objective now is to get an adequate passable promenade here. This is not the last time we're going to see improvements to this promenade over the course of the project area. It's our objective to get something down there so the city and the town can utilize it. Right now, bring people to the site, get people excited about the project, and hopefully get things moving from that standpoint. But there'll be different phases of development as we get into play here, adding on other areas within the waterfront promenade site, adding in the upland open space areas and the other facilities like the Mule Barn and the Environmental Education Center, which will all come to play in future phases of the project site. Yes? No, we haven't. We're still finalizing the plans for the sewer and water extensions up from the pump station. They haven't gone out to bid yet, no. What's that? We're hoping we'll have approval of the sewer and water main extensions probably by September, and then we'll probably put those out to bid, see what that looks like. Yes, sir.
When you start build up phase one, would that be North Cove or something?
That's the $1 million. It'll definitely be the North Cove. We're looking at a portion that kind of straddles the Village Green area within the town and the city. And as I've said from day one, 10 years ago when the application first came in, we're not speculative builders. We build on contract. It's the only way a builder can keep their head above water in this market, unless you got public money behind you, that builds it. So we're optimistic that things are starting to turn around. We're seeing more activity in our sales offices now. So as I say, we got to get through this election and get things moving again. But we're hoping by next fall we'll see some decent activity and we can start putting real site plans down in front of the city and the town to get things moving. Yes, ma'am.
Will that require site plan approval, if I understand?
Yes.
As I recall, that this is a generic.
Yeah, we were approved under a generic, so we will have to come back to the city and the town for final site plan approval and subdivision approval, at which point will also be, one thing that has to be implemented when the project comes into play is the design review committee will be implemented that will administer the guidelines. So we'll be receiving architectural approval, planning approval, subdivision, site plan at that point. That it? Okay. I'll be here, for a little while if you want to come up and ask any specific questions. And thank you very much for your time. I didn't mean to take anyone's summer vacations away, hopefully, but I just wanted to bring to you our vision, and hopefully we'll get things moving in the next year and things will start looking better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. I failed to mention your team before we started here tonight. We have Steve Pinkley and Ron Marquette also. I want to thank everybody who came here from the other government administrations, town of Ulster County. Also, I want to mention that this PowerPoint presentation is available on the city's website if anybody's interested. It will be? It's not yet. It's not yet. It will be sometime this week. Sue Payne was letting me know. And we also wanted to thank Dan for his updates, his periodic updates. I know that Jerry Burke here said that there was no new information that he had gotten since they had that with Finance, Ways and Means, but both planning boards didn't have that opportunity to sit in that meeting. That's why we have the information for periodic updates here. So thank you again, and have a motion